This is the third in a sequence of quick tips we're doing, where we're taking a single concept and a single subject and exploring how we can interpret that in three different mediums. This one is with oils. So if you watch quick tip 186 and 187, you see them using the same photo, and the same intention is to interpret this subject with by using a lost edge, soft edge, and sharp edge. So the intention is to get those three edges. Before we get started, and just do a quick little layout here, like we always do before we can get started on any subject, where I'm just going to sort of place this tulip. So, and all we do when we're placing objects for any painting exercise is simply place them generally, place their shapes generally. It's best not when you're placing images for a painting. In my experience, it's best not to try to do detailed drawings of the image, but it's best just to place it so that you'll know where things are going to be, and you allow the details to happen during the painting itself. And so that's the object here. Let's see, pull that one down a little bit like that. Okay, a little stem like that, and I'm just going to let that suffice. That's a rough. I'll put a little bit more belly right here. That's a rough idea. Now with watercolor, which is the first one we did, that was quick tip 186. With watercolor, we defined the outside first. We defined we have the dark and the green, and then we have that's the darkest portion, and then we have this magenta, and they're almost complements in color. So with watercolor, in that particular one, and also with the pastel, I defined the outside first. With oils, we have a little bit different problem in that the oils, because of the delicacy of these pink colors, the oils themselves, if I define the background first, then I start pulling the colors in after having defined the background, there's a chance I could pull that green into the flower itself, and then I'd get mud. So I'm going to do this one a little bit backwards. I'm going to, well, kind of backwards, do the same. I'll show you parts together. So what we're doing here, now we want to get a lost edge, a soft edge, and a sharp edge. And I'm going to just do a study, simple study. I'm not going to be trying to do a painting of this tulip. So I'm going to start here in the shadow portion. We see the light here. We see the shadow here. So I'm going to start in the shadow portion, which I always do. And I've got my value line of colors here. And I'll simply place this dark magenta. This particular magenta is the Utrecht quinacridone violet, and we have mixed into it a little bit of a naphtha red. Alright, so in the places the dark, I'm going to begin to move up the value scale. Let me get a little bit of paper towel here. I'm looking at the value because that's important for creating the edges, is getting the value right. So I'm moving up the value scale, and I'm going to let the strokes, just kind of in the alla prima mode, I'm going to allow the strokes to define as much as I can in the first go, so I don't have to worry about placing those things as I move along. So I'll just look at the direction in which the shape of that thing is moving. I'll move the strokes in that direction, and so that gives us then a rough rendition of that side of the tulip. And I'm going to continue to build over on this side, in the dark area, in the shadow area. And get just a little bit darker right down in here, and I'll explain that in just a moment. And then move up the tulip this way to get that darker portion in. Now I'm going to stop right there and switch brushes and begin to work the background, because we're looking, I want to look here at how I can get a lost edge. So I'm going into this very deep dark green, and I'm just going to, I've got some blue and some green, and have some sort of a bluish green there. Now let's see, what I want to happen here is, in order to get a lost edge, I want this dark of the negative space to be a similar value or same value as the dark in the positive space. And so I'll just work that in right next to, and you see, by working it right next to that, like that, then I can squint at it and see, is that value close enough then to give me a lost edge? And I think it is, and so I'll just continue now working this as a vignette. I'm going to simply work this as a vignette, which means that I won't fill in, I won't paint the whole ground or the whole background, but it will be just enough to make the point. So here I'll pull that in, and here I'll pull it in here, pretty much interpreting what I'm seeing in that ground there in the background. And here we need to follow through over here like this. Now I'm looking at this is the shadow side. So that's what I'm looking at, the shadow side. I'm going to go ahead and place that, go ahead and give an indication in the study for that stem. There's a little bit of a shadow underneath it too, like that. Now, I want a lost edge there. I don't want that to be a sharp definition between the darkest, between the red, the magenta here, and the green. So in order to get that lost edge, what I'm going to do is to go back with I could go back with either brush, but I'm going to go back with this brush. This is the one that has the dark magenta, and I'm just simply going to move into that edge and give it a slight little blend from the red into the green. And you can watch, while I'm doing that, you can watch that edge disappear. I'll pull it right over into here so I can get an equal transition from the green to the red. Now that's a lost edge. Let's get it even loster. Let's get it so that we have a total smooth. And when I was doing that in watercolor, we had the feeling of the dark between the light, but we still had a little bit of an edge. It wasn't a true lost edge. In pastels, we were pretty much able to get it as a lost edge. In order to guarantee or make that edge feel even more like a lost edge, I'm going to darken the red just a little bit on the inside with some green. That is a marvelous little tool we have where we can darken red with green. So I'll just darken that just a little bit right there, just like that, and then that helps to create that lost edge. You get that a little bit smoother, and there we go. So if you squint at that now, you really have that feeling of dark in the negative moving into dark in the positive, and that's what a lost edge is. It's one shape merging into another without the division. It can happen in the darks, the middles, or the lights. It doesn't have to be just in the darks. So now I want to go for a soft edge, and in order to do that, I will go back into the red, and let's go back to the red, and I want to begin with the dark here. Let's see, I don't want that too dark because this is beginning to move into light, and so I will just move around and give that, try to get it as an alla prima study, where we get the shapes and the textures as we go. And so we can start right here with this petal, begin to kind of work it and give that a little bit of an alla prima treatment, coming on down like this. And by having the brush, having the various values in the brush, we can do that. And I'm going to give that one more little sweep, like right in here. Now, wipe that out of the brush and let's kind of smooth that out. Now, I'm going to move into the negative. And in the negative, I'm going to just stroke it as negative. I'm looking at the value is darker than it is in the positive, and so I'm just going to stroke that as negative. And build, I'll just push the brush right up next to that and build those shapes. I need that just a little bit lighter in there, right in here, like that. Now you can see, when you do that sort of thing, you get a very sharp edge. Let's make it just a little bit, get some more variation in there. But when you have, especially single flowers like that, having that harsh edge all the way around doesn't give us that true feeling that nature gives in flowers. So I'll just move this around right here and give that variation now. But what I want to do is I want to soften that edge. Over here I lost it, but I want to soften that edge from positive into negative. In order to do that, I will just use a clean brush and I will just move it very gently. Whoops. Yeah, that happened. I'll just move it very gently along the edge until it softens. Let's put that back in, right in here. There we go. Until the edge softens. Now you can see with the edge softened, we feel it feels more natural to us. When the edges are very hard like that, especially from negative to positive, it doesn't always feel natural. So I'm giving just a little bit more definition right down here. And I said this is a study, so I'm not concerned with making it. I'm not concerned with making a total definition. Although some of your comments, I keep getting the idea that you want to see me paint something to completion. Well, that's not going to happen. Now I've got the soft edge, we've got the lost edge. Let's go for the hard edge. And when is a hard edge appropriate? Well, that's a matter of interpretation. We make a hard edge when we want to emphasize something. Now let's see, as I come along right in here, let's get that brush good and loaded with color. And as I'm coming along right in here, it could be that I want one of these edges to get the viewer's attention. If I want that edge to get the viewer's attention, then I'll make it a hard edge. Now let's see what we can do here. So do we want to get the viewer's attention? I'm just going to just defining the edge. Now here I'm getting that sort of soft around this division, right in there. It's more of a transition. The viewer's eye is going to go right through there. But if I stop right there and say I would like the viewer's attention to come right in here, well, I can go into either side, positive or negative, and make that edge very hard. And here I'll just do that. I'll just use some light, and you push it right up against that edge, and that calls attention to it. But the idea of calling the attention doesn't mean necessarily that we want the eye to stop there. We want to call attention, but then we want the piece to continue. We want the eye to continue to move. So in order to keep the eye moving, maybe I'll add some more of that white over here. Maybe I'll add some more of that white down in here. And then let's see, as we move around it in the negative area, just very quickly, as a vignette, actually as a vignette, usually as a vignette, vignettes will often end up being just done in washes like I'm doing right here. So if I move into the negative area, oh, okay, we have another piece right there, right in there, as it moves into the negative area. And just give that a wash, just for the negative. Give that a wash, and then look at what we want to do with edges. All right, now right in here, I can soften those edges, so I'll just bring my brush right over, soften that edge, and now I can move into this area right back here. What do I want to happen to this edge? This edge, let's see, just kind of poke it up in there, and then let's go back into the background here. See, I need to bring that down just a little bit. Okay, so that needs to be part of the background right in here. There we go. That could be another hard edge. So we don't just put hard and soft in one place necessarily. We move the hard and soft around according to how we want the eye to respond. So now, as I'm looking at the study, as I've done it now, I might make some decisions, and one decision I might make is to load the brush and to define this edge a little bit more crisply. So I just push it right up against that and create a hard edge there. Now you'll see that your eye goes there. So we have a hard edge here, and we have a hard edge here. This is a hard edge too, and if I don't want that hard edge, another way I can do it is to soften it with my finger. Just gently bring my finger right down. Well, if the paint is not as wet as that paint is, it does blend into the background. And let's see, what do I want to do here? Now I can leave that sort of hard, and then allow that to be soft. So you see, if you're really studying edges, you can experiment as you move along. Just do a quick study like this, and then you can experiment with where you'd like the edges soft and where you would like them hard. Now right here we have, there's a we call that kind of a merging edge. That's sort of a soft edge right there, where we have this petal behind that, in front of that one, and then we have that kind of hard edge here. Then we have the softer edge here, the harder edge here, the softer edge here, the lost edge there, and you could just do a study, of course. And I'm not going to try to finish that or make it even more defined than that. Just want to show you how your eyes behave. I want to show you one more little trick that you can try, and that is to test your eyes. Test your eyes to see how they behave by where an edge, for example, where an edge is soft. Try making it sharp or hard. So let's put this just a little bit more light in here. Okay, now let's see, what would happen if I made this edge, I have already softened it, but what would happen if I made it harder? And so I then let my eye look at that and say, how does that feel? And to my eye, it feels artificial to have that edge soft, hard. So then I would soften it and simply bring the brush around, allowing it to cross over. There you go. Simply allowing the brush to cross over both negative and positive, 1 or 2 strokes, and it feels soft. So you can do an experiment like that where you move your brush throughout the image. My impression is that most painters, especially painters that you might call emerging painters, just want to make pictures. They want to make images, and they're not paying attention to the elements of making an image and how you can control that. So if you just take one image like this and then just spend half an hour playing with softening edges, hardening it, make one edge soft, and then make it hard, and then try to make it lost, and see kind of how that works. And now, like here, for example, now I'm going to say, all right, now I'm going to soften that. As I soften it, let's see what happens as I soften that edge. And say, more soften. Let's keep it hard right down here and let it be soft right in there. What happens if we lose it right in here? And so on. So that's an experiment you can try, even if you don't have the skills for both watercolor, oil, and pastels. And maybe you have the skills in maybe two mediums. And you can try that, taking one subject and play around with edges, or simply whatever medium you're working with, try taking one image like this and then experiment with making different kinds of edges within that one subject, and see that what edges do to help us interpret our expressiveness in our paintings. And then you might go over to DianneMize.com and take a look at our full-length video tutorials, that you might find something there that could move you along in your artistic life. And if you have a request for a quick tip, leave us a comment down here and we'll put it on our schedule. And there's your quick tip.